The Prime Minister of Israel spoke with deliberate intensity before departing on a mission that carries both symbolic weight and urgent political purpose. I am now leaving with my wife for the UN General Assembly in Washington. At the UN General Assembly, I will speak our truth, the citizens of Israel, the truth of the IDF soldiers of our country. This statement is not merely travel commentary. It is the opening line of a message crafted for both domestic audiences and the international community. The United Nations General Assembly is one of the most scrutinized stages in world politics, and every word delivered there is dissected by allies, adversaries, and analysts alike. The Prime Minister went further, making clear that his mission is not to strike a conciliatory tone, but to draw sharp lines of condemnation. I will condemn those leaders who, instead of denouncing the murderers, rapists, and child burners, want to give them a state in the heart of the land of Israel. This will not happen. These words underscore one of the fiercest debates in global diplomacy, the question of Palestinian statehood. For decades, the idea of two states has been central to peace efforts. But here, the Israeli leader dismisses it in unambiguous terms, framing it as a reward for violence rather than a path to peace. For Israel's critics, the refusal to acknowledge Palestinian claims is a denial of their right to sovereignty. For Israel's government, however, it is a matter of survival, rejecting any legitimacy for those it considers to be orchestrators of terror. The international community has long struggled with this duality. On one hand, the suffering of civilians in Gaza and the West Bank demands urgent attention. On the other, the spectre of continued attacks against Israelis creates a security dilemma that no leader in Jerusalem can afford to ignore. By drawing such stark contrasts, the Prime Minister seeks to ensure that Israel's narrative dominates when the debates unfold inside the UN chamber. But this visit is not solely about speeches. It is also about power, alliances, and the assurances that can only be secured through direct diplomacy. In Washington, I will meet for the fourth time, more than any other leader, with President Trump. The emphasis here is intentional. By highlighting the number of meetings, the Prime Minister showcases the depth of his relationship with the American president. Few partnerships in international politics carry the same weight as the US-Israel alliance, and repeated face-to-face discussions underline its significance. Every handshake, every photograph, every line in a joint statement sends ripples far beyond Washington. The agenda, as the Prime Minister outlines it, is framed in terms of achievement and urgency. We will discuss within the great opportunities that our victories have brought, and also our need to complete the goals of the war. Victories, goals, war. Each word reflects a careful construction of Israel's strategic posture. Victories are meant to reassure a domestic audience weary of conflict. Goals suggest unfinished business, an acknowledgement that military achievements must translate into political outcomes. And war, bluntly stated, serves as a reminder that for Israel, the battlefield remains inseparable from diplomacy. The objectives are made clear. That means to return all our hostages, to defeat Hamas, and to expand the circle of peace. Each point carries profound resonance. The return of hostages touches the deepest nerve in Israeli society. Families of those held captive live in daily anguish, and the government faces constant pressure to bring them home. Defeating Hamas, meanwhile, is presented not as a tactical aim, but as a strategic necessity, framed as the elimination of a force that threatens Israel's very existence. And then comes the third ambition, expanding the circle of peace. Here, the Prime Minister shifts the narrative away from conflict and toward possibility. The Abraham Accords have already redefined Israel's relations with key Arab nations, breaking decades of hostility. The promise now is that these accords are not isolated victories, but stepping stones toward a broader realignment of the Middle East. For Israel, each new diplomatic partner represents both security and legitimacy on the world stage. The Prime Minister anchors these ambitions to what he calls the historic victory on Iran and other victories that we have achieved. For Israel, Iran is not simply another adversary. It is the state most often portrayed as an existential threat. To speak of a historic victory against such a rival is to signal not only military or intelligence successes, but also the forging of coalitions that constrain Tehran's influence. Yet beyond Israel's narrative, Iran remains deeply entrenched across the region, from Lebanon to Syria to Yemen, through proxies and alliances. This makes the claim of victory both politically powerful and diplomatically contentious. All of this converges on the stage of the UN General Assembly. For decades, this forum has been a place where Israel has often found itself isolated, criticized by blocs of states sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. But it is also a place where words can shift perception, where a single speech can command headlines and reshape diplomatic calculations. The stakes are enormous. Should the international community prioritize Palestinian statehood, as many argue, or focus first on Israel's security concerns, as the Prime Minister demands? Can peace agreements with Arab nations truly expand while the core conflict with Palestinians remains unresolved? And how will Washington's support, or lack thereof, alter the balance of these debates? The Prime Minister's mission is to ensure that Israel's voice is not lost amid the cacophony of speeches and resolutions. He aims to present Israel not only as a nation under siege, but also as a state with victories, ambitions, and a roadmap for peace on its own terms. As the world watches, every word delivered at the UN will reverberate. Diplomats will issue statements of support or condemnation. Analysts will pass the nuances for signals of policy shifts. Families of hostages will listen intently, hoping for more than rhetoric. The Prime Minister's declaration is not just about the immediate moment. It is about shaping the narrative that defines Israel's place in a fractured global order. It is about framing Hamas as beyond the pale of legitimacy, rallying allies against Iran, and projecting strength to those who would doubt Israel's resolve. This visit, therefore, is not simply another round of diplomacy. It is a declaration of intent, a fight for narrative dominance, and a preview of the difficult choices the world will face in the months ahead. On the stage of the United Nations, where words can ignite applause or protests, the Prime Minister arrives determined to leave no room for ambiguity. Israel will speak its truth, defend its soldiers, and pursue peace, but only on terms that ensure its survival.